On this edition of Game Shack, I review Electronic Arcade's pinball machines with all new skins. I'm going to tell you guys if this is something you should take a look at picking up, how it compares to its big brother, and how it compares to other pinball games of the same cost. All right, all that and more coming up next. So cute. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thanks for stopping by. It really does mean a lot to us here at the channel. If you can give us a thumbs up, that would really help us out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you do subscribe. And if you buy any of the things from the various affiliate links that may pop up or you see down below, I get a little taste. It doesn't cost you anything. And in some cases, you actually save money. So thanks for everybody who supports the channel. And before I get into the rest of the review, be aware that I have some gameplay at the end of the video. So if you want to check out the 3 different versions that I have on the table right now, gameplay at the end of this video. I should tell you guys right off the bat that Electronic Arcade sent me these games to review, Ambassador Electronics. Now, I had actually bought the original version of this game 2 or 3 years ago, so I do have some skin in the game. But anyway, they sent me these units to review. I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can be, but as I always say, go ahead and do your own research, look at other people's videos, go look at the Amazon reviews, etc., to see if this is a product that is worth your while. But anyway, I'm going to try to be as honest as I can be, but they did send me these pinball games to review free of charge. No money has changed hands. They don't get to see this video before you do, and they don't tell me what to say. So again, you know, I'm going to try to give you guys a straight and narrow review. And speaking of that, you can see a previous review I did last year on their neon version of this game. Now, everything is the same in terms of mechanicality, in terms of how it's going to play. The one thing that's going to change from machine to machine, and this actually surprised me, is that you're going to get different sounds on the different machines. So if you get the NHL version, which is a new skin for this year, you are going to get some like rock and roll music, and you're going to get different sound effects. Same thing with Pac-Man. If you play Pac-Man, you're going to get the Pac-Man sound effects. If you play the neon version, you're going to get like more arcadey, I guess, style type of sound effects. So depending on what game you buy, you will have different sound effects, but other than that, mechanically, they're going to play the same. So the flippers are the same, the ball size is the same, playfield has the same design in all of these, the scoring is the same. So really what you're looking at is the different skins and different sound effects. So just be aware of that if you are looking at buying one of these. Speaking of that, what does this thing cost to buy? Well, right now it costs between $40 and $60 depending on what kind of model you buy, what skin you buy, and where you buy it at. I saw it as high as $60 for the NHL version of this game, and I've seen it, I think, for $42 or $40 other places, so it's going to be right around that range. The median price right now looks like it's around $45, again, depending on what skin you get and depending upon availability. They should, in theory, be available at Walmart, Amazon, BJ's, Target, places like that. I think Hobby Lobby had them in store. I don't think you can order them online from Hobby Lobby, but anyway, in theory, they're in store there. So as I record this, it's about 2.5 weeks to Christmas. So if you order this thing now, you should have it in plenty of time, assuming you get it at Amazon or Walmart, one of those places that's going to give you 3 to 4 day delivery. But again, stock on these things is running out. So if you want one of these things, you probably ought to jump on it fast, at least in terms of getting it into your hot little hands before Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, would this be a good Christmas present? Well, again, I'll tell you guys to go take a look at my other video that really gets into the nuts and bolts of this thing, but the short answer is yes. I think this is a very good Christmas prize, particularly for kids maybe 6 to 12 years old. Right off the bat, you ought to know that they do make a pro version of this table that you can see here is significantly larger, has many more pro type features like saucers, like an underground subway tunnel, more interactive LED lighting, just more LED lighting in general. It has a 2-tier LED scoring screen. So in just a lot of ways, it's going to be superior to this smaller version, but it costs about 2/3 more. So you're looking at about $150 for that machine, more or less, and you're looking at around $45 to $50 ish on the smaller version. So depending on where you are in terms of what you want, this smaller version is of course physically smaller, so it's easier to travel, and it is about the third of the cost of the bigger guy. So that's why you're going to see those better features in the more expensive bigger version. All right, so let's talk about gameplay and features. All right, so you're going to see that has a very symmetric play field, so everything is the same on left and right side. That is unlike the Pro version, which is asymmetrical, which is a design I do prefer. But of course, in this much smaller play field, I don't think they had a lot of options, but you're not going to get ramps, saucers, spinners, things like that. You're going to get essentially what you see. The scoring is straightforward. You're going to be chasing high scores, and that's about it. There's no wizard modes or more complicated modes, but that again mirrors the bigger version, which may see that stuff down the line. I don't know that you'll ever see it down in this sort of basic model. It is fun to play. It does have 5 active bumpers, which makes it very much different than everything else that's even close to this price class. You can see it right here next to the New Era Pinball game. Now that New Era Pinball game is okay and everything, but it is vastly inferior to this version, which has 5 bumpers, LED lights, it's got music, it can keep your high score. I guess the screens are about the same in terms of the scoring, but in almost every single way, this is going to beat out that New Era Pinball game, which goes for almost exactly the same price, around $45. And that's about it for tabletop pinball, other than the bigger version that you can get. Now, Jax used to put out a pinball game that you could buy on QVC, but that hasn't been in production for, as far as I can tell, 2 years now, maybe even 3 years. So any of those that you find are going to be used. There are some other tabletop pinball games that are kind of in the same league as this, but they're going for $100. And I don't think they're going to touch the bigger Pro version of this. So for the price, you are getting a lot here. Those interactive bumpers are really cool to have in something as small as this very small tabletop pinball game. Are there any negatives? I would say, yeah, there's 3 negatives. One, it only runs on AAA battery, so you don't have the option to run it on like an AC brick like you can the Pro version. So in my experience, now I've had one of these things for at least 3 years now. It runs pretty well on it. You're not going to drain these batteries immediately, but you know, you want to have maybe a second set of these things, a second set of batteries on hand, or rechargeable batteries. If the thing starts acting wonky, it's because your batteries are starting to run down, and they advise you to change out those batteries. So that's a negative, that you don't have any AC ability. Another little thing, and I know this is a little bit of a tiny quibble, is that the battery compartment is held together with that screw. I hate that. I wish it was just a clip feature. I'd rather just put tape on there or have almost no battery compartment at all, other than having that screw, because that's just a pain in the buttski. The other and probably biggest negative is the fact that you cannot turn off the music and sound effects. Unlike the Pro version, which you can turn off the volume and sound, you cannot do it here. So you're going to be stuck with the Pac-Man or the Rock and Roll Arcade. Depending on what version you get, you're going to have those sound effects going. So if you hate Pac-Man sounds and don't want to hear them, you probably ought to buy the Pro version. You know, basically you ought to buy the Pro version if you want to be able to turn off the sound effects. It is probably the biggest negative about this machine. Okay, yeah, so my final grade is A, and that is based on the other products that are in the same price range, the lack of other real-world pinball, the expense of virtual pinball games. I mean, really, there is not a whole lot of competition. I think Ambassador is doing a service to the real pinball community, because again, this is kind of keeping those old Tomy Atomic space pinball games alive and well for both, you know, older people who want to get new versions of those games from when they were kids. And it's a great way to expose younger people to the joys of tabletop pinball and pinball in general. So again, considering all the features you're getting and comparing it to the competition, for me, again, it's a very solid A. And be sure to stick around to the end of the video, because I have some gameplay from 3 of the games on there. Again, each of the games are going to have slightly different music, and depending on what your tastes are, there you go. Okay, so if you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help this channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Love each other. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.